Lisa. Hi, Chris. Hi, Doris. This is Amrisha, and I am accompanied with my teammate, Elora. She comes from the content part of our team, and I come from the interviewing part of our team. So it's a complete honor to be interviewing you today and getting a chance to delve deep into the workings of bKind, an organization that has been recognized by the New York State Assembly. And I read something that was something like never look down on someone unless you are helping them up. So I was very much touched by this line, and I want to understand more on how this organization has been living this. So I am very excited for the session. So we have curated certain questions that will help us understand maximum in this limited amount of time. If I have your permission, I may start with the questions. Perfect. So I wanted to know, why is AAPI Heritage Month important, especially this year, considering the situations that our countries have been in, and how has it changed since last year?
Asian Americans, have historically been underrepresented, not necessarily heard. It's also in the process of developing its voice. What is best to do, especially in all-time high, period of anti-hate sentiment and violence. So May, it started in 1979. Jimmy Carter did Asian Pacific American Heritage Week. That became a month, which is, Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, time for Asians to, sort of put forward, who they are, what they're going through, what can be done, and especially over the last 2 years, where things have become so dynamic in so many different ways and so many different issues have come to light. It's also an ideal time for people to start connecting with each other, communicating with each other so that they understand what those issues are going on in the community, and then most importantly, collaborating and see what we can do together. A session like this is awesome, where you guys are shining a spotlight on all the different organizations so we can see who's doing what, how we might be able to help, how they might be able to help us, recognize what the strengths are, recognize what the possible strategies might be, and most importantly, unite to just make a better society, not just within an Asian community, but within the mainstream community on whole. I also like how you started, where, basically, help people up, especially during dynamic times like this, that's all you need to do. Just be present, and then when you can lend a hand, do so. And that's exactly what Lisa has been doing within bKind. That's what we do within Coalition of Asian Pacific Americans. Also, 2 other programs that we're working on, Protect Yourself within bKind, as well as another one that we're trying to pilot within New York City called Ethical Protector.
So Chris has pretty much covered everything. I just want to highlight one thing, is that in terms of the organization, bKind, Be One, it is a recognition that we are stronger together, and being kind to one another is because we are all one, we are all family, and we want to treat each other as if they are family. And so this culmination with the Asian Pacific American Heritage Month is very important, because we need to learn more about our family. So just as in other months we learn about, for example, the African American community, the Latino community, the gay and lesbian community, in terms of the Asian Pacific American community, we in the United States actually have never been recognized as part of the one. That is, we are continually viewed as foreigners, and that's been in the past and also in the future. That's why there's so much anti-Asian violence, and that's why part of what we do as an organization, as individuals, is to educate people and to remind people that of the humanity within all of us, and that we need to treat everyone as if they are family, and to highlight the issues that are affecting in the Asian American community, that is the anti-Asian violence, and to also educate the cultural nuances of our community that really can benefit everyone. And so what Chris has been doing, what Lisa, last year we did this festival called bKind, Be One, which was a one-day festival to highlight all of this. And we had about 25 organizations sign on, very diverse, not just Asian American organizations. And what your mission is in terms of what you are doing as a corporation, as individuals in the corporation, is aligned with what we feel very strongly. The fact that you want to do these bags with messages, affirmation messages, is so important to our community, as well as providing safety alarms, because unfortunately the anti-Asian hate is still prevalent in New York City in particular, but all over the country. And I don't know if you know this, but hundreds of people lined up when there was a giveaway for safety alarms not that long ago in the cold. So it was something that people really desperately want and need to feel safe with. And so, your assistance with that is much appreciated. And we thank you very, very much.
Lisa, if you have something to add on to this.
I appreciate that. I don't want to take away from the spotlight, because this is really about Chris and Doris. I just want to say I still have to hold back tears when I hear Doris describe why we all came together on this. So I just am grateful to have them, and I'm here to do anything I can to help, but they're the focus. But thank you.
To Lisa, this would not happen without Lisa.
No, it's beautiful. We've sort of created this team. Lisa has spearheaded so much in terms of bringing good people together to just work together and help out. It's something that's, one, special, but two, revitalizing for community as well as individuals, because so many people that do nonprofit work get burned out. They're sort of like in it for the long haul, and they're doing this and that, and this and this. And sometimes it's maybe underappreciated, or maybe it's just not noticed. But, when you meet up and when you work with people that are just so passionate and convicted at what they do, it's hard for it to not rub off. And it ends up being beautiful. I mean, May is Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. And throughout this entire month, you've got tons of different activities from so many different wonderful organizations. And you can almost sort of pick and choose. But, one sentiment that's been shared amongst the community is, why wait to do this 1 month out of the year when it should be all year round? Every community, every culture should be celebrated all the time, and people should hear, understand, and work with the different dynamics within, within the length of their own, ability, of course. But the solutions that seem to be coming to light, that seem to be more important. One thing we found last year was like, you can't really go out during, a pandemic when there's rallies, protests, and everything, and say, well, we're going through a very, very difficult time. You need to help us. People are like, by the way, we've got a lot going on too, but thanks for caring. So you're working on solutions that will across the board help each community collectively as well as individually. So when you come out with an initiative that reduces crime, allows social workers to get to community members that are in need, or help law enforcement to work in a safer environment. I mean, those are pluses that help within the Asian American community that's experiencing all-time highs in terms of violence, killing, anti-Asian sentiment, but it helps across the board for every culture. African American community's always been going through all that stuff. They're like, welcome to the club. It's the truth. So at that point, what can we do to improve the situation for all?
Right. Chris touched on a very important point, is looking for things that unite communities. So the bKind, Be One certainly is something that we look to unite communities. And we should actually tell you that last year we did a one-day festival. We've now joined with about 50 other organizations to do an all-summer festival, which will be every single weekend from now basically to the end of the summer. And we have programming from many diverse cultures as well as Asian American culture. And so we have entitled it Roar, which is basically it's the year of the tiger. So all our communities are able to roar and to reactivate and to organize and to activate and to what's the other one, Lisa?
Rejoice.
Rejoice. So we have so many activities, everything from self-defense to ballroom dancing to, cultural music, and from the Latino community, African American community, the mainstream white community, as well as the Asian American community. So it's part of that whole theme of being kind and being one, learning from one another. And what Chris talked about in terms of uniting communities, part of my background is I was a judge for many years, and then I retired, and then, the world kind of went upside down in my retirement, and I felt like I had to do something. And one of the things I did which united communities was, after a terrible tragedy, which was the tragic death of Michelle Go, who she was pushed onto the tracks in Times Square. And unfortunately, she lost her life. And she basically embodied the hopes and dreams of every parent. She was successful. She did volunteer work. She could have been anybody's daughter or sister or even mother. And so that was such a terrible tragedy, but it united communities because we all realized that there are solutions. One easy solution was to at least do some subway barriers, which many subway systems all over the world have, but New York City's transit system kept on saying it's impossible and impossible, even though the studies have shown that it is possible. Perhaps not in every subway system, but at least in Times Square, certainly where Michelle Go was killed, which is very crowded and a place of crime. And so as part of safety for all New Yorkers, I started this petition drive and voter engagement campaign with elected officials that united many communities, and 65,000 people signed a petition and wrote to their elected officials in less than a month's time. And within that month, the Transit Authority changed their tune from it's impossible to, okay, we're going to do a trial program. We're going to pick some of the subway platforms and put in subway barriers. So looking for things to unite New Yorkers and really the whole United States are things that are important. The idea of Be Kind, Be One certainly is what we are about, is uniting people.
I take a slightly different tack. I'm not a judge, actually, just a small business person, but it's sort of one of those things where I think the changes that need to be done are just very, very fundamental, where, as opposed to trying to fight hate or fight, crime and everything, why not change the verb to help, engage, empower? At that point, you make a significant difference, sort of flipping a switch in the mind, as opposed to, putting tons of money behind different programs to do this, do that. It's always going to be a moving target. But if you empower the individual and you say, okay, this is a small thing, but we talk about self-defense programs. The moment you say self-defense, you're automatically painting yourself as a victim. So the reason why we call it protect yourself is because you're protecting either yourself or somebody else. You're not automatically, I need to defend against somebody who's attacking me, because then you're almost like waiting for attackers, and like, who wants to invite that? Things like there was a program that was done on April 30th. It was a number of organizations. It was Soki Lee organized it. She worked with UA3. They worked with the Department of Sanitation, and then different groups came out. Asian Women Giving Circle, Kappa, Lions Club, Project by Project. So if it's okay, I'm going to share an image of that day. And can I do a share?
Yes.
Great. It's disabled.
Just give me a moment. I will give you the hosting, right?
No problem.
I'll make you the co-host. Can you see the share button now?
Yes, I can. So here is basically a whole bunch of different groups getting together one beautiful afternoon, cleaning up the Sarah Roosevelt Park down by Chinatown. Simple, right? But working with each other, having a good time. We had our Girl Scout troop there as well. We had the Department of Sanitation. And at the end of the day, the parks were cleaner. It was like a 2-block radius around the park. And everyone got a chance to meet different people, hear what people had to say, communicate, and collaborate to get the space cleaner. Seems very, very basic, seems very, very simple, but there are always different layers, because if you think about it, Sarah Roosevelt Park was also the park right across the street from, let me make sure, is it showing up?
Yes, yes,
Christina.
the memorial for, Christina.
So Christina Yuna Lee lived right across the block from that park. All right. They erected this memorial. There were a few occasions where it was kicked across and everything, but it's sort of like, in simple actions like this, there is, I guess, the spirit and the intention of healing as well. And understand, we can make a difference. We weren't there for her that night, but that being said, okay, in the spirit, in her memory of all the different victims, all the people that are being attacked, are being affected, and for the attackers need help too, right? So we have to remember that they're each human, and, how can we help them? Something's triggering them, something's making them angry, but we need to come up with solutions that address things across the board.
Interject about that part, though, is that
Sure.
bKind, B1, joining with the 50 other groups to do this festival
the same park.
for war. It's this park. So we are reclaiming this park, so that, actually an Asian American entertainer was walking through that park and got assaulted. So there's a lot of crime associated with this park, and people, ordinary people, are afraid to use this park. But having a festival there that is all summer long, every weekend, and having these folks help clean up this park is reclaiming this park. And so the bKind B1 is doing this festival with this 50 other groups, and so that every single weekend, and hopefully throughout after that, this park will be part of our community and not a site where we think of crime.
There's a group called Think Chinatown. They're going to have a night market on May 20th. They'll have performers, they'll have food, they'll have culture, they'll have, you name it. But it's one of those things where people can come out, they can feel safe, they can meet each other, socialize again, and just have a good time. But at the same time, it is an expression of our culture, of our, our values, and, just making sure that things go well. And, that day, of course, you're going to have a lot of different possible issues, but, we do the best that we can to help, and then just make things safer along the way. There's another group which is newer, doesn't have as much of a history, like 43 years or so, but it's called Unite to Save Chinatown. And their model is different because they're working with different groups. They're, going through different data sources to figure out strategically what would make Chinatown safer? What would make Chinatown better? Does it need more homeless shelters, even though it's already got 4 in a small area? Does it need a mega jail with all the construction that would follow it? And it's sort of like, okay, well, how can these issues be brought to light? How can they be addressed? And how can things move forward more safely? You've got, internal strife within the community where people are like, well, so-and-so sold out so-and-so. Well, sort of rise above all that, understand that you're still in the community and you're still on the same side. So figure it out and then move forward together. Because if you just start infighting, then at a certain point, you're never going to get to where you want to go. And that goes for internally within the community, but also externally with other communities, whether it be divided by race, gender, sexual orientation, you name it.
So perhaps we should ask, since we've been talking a lot, whether we've answered your question, whether you have other questions of us.
Doris, that question was perfectly answered, and I just did not want to stop whatever discussion that was going on because it was so informative. And listening to these stories, I literally got goosebumps and smile and little emotion. Everything was happening at the same time. So, Chris, you rightly mentioned that we always talk about people getting united, people coming together, people helping each other. But then there's this most important aspect that everybody seems to miss, is that it should start from within, it should start from us. And like you mentioned, first of all, we need everybody united in the community, and then something like a community to community bonds and community to community corporations and work, that is equally important to strengthen these special days that we celebrate. Because if we do have a lot of communities working for one cause, but if they work separately, the strength won't come. And Doris, like you mentioned, this cultural hate and these hate crimes, it is completely unacceptable. And this initiative that happened where everybody came and reclaimed the park, I feel is something that should be followed everywhere. And people should feel that this place is safe and people gather here, people socialize. So the park will now be viewed after some time as a socializing area and not as a crime zone. So that is something that every place, every person can take inspiration from. And I also wanted to know how bKind specifically works for this cause. Like if you just consider bKind, how does it work?
Lisa can be very humble in stating or not stating certain things. bKind has been able to do a lot of different things, whether it be food distribution, whether it be protection, protect yourself classes, whether it be making connections between different individuals, whether it be assisting someone in their own healing from trauma that they've experienced, whether it be acupuncture, acupressure, for people to sort of just feel better. It's sort of amazing. Lisa, ever since I've met her, when, Doris brought us together last year, it basically, when you have a genuine person that just wants to help, it's amazing how many different things she has been able to get support from any number of different individuals as well as corporations in different ways. And the spirit is always to receive and then give. And then when it's received, it's reciprocated too, because, no one's looking for handouts. We're like, okay, well, thank you for helping us. What can we do to help you? One of the organizations we work with, Coalition of Asian Pacific Americans, received a very, very generous donation of PPEs this past month. So all throughout the month of May, they'll be distributed to nonprofit organizations as well as community service groups. And this was all done for free. They'll be given out for free. And, the thing that we give is time, energy, and, a smile or two, because why not?
Well, Lisa has done so much. I mean, she's united groups that, frankly, sometimes they fight among themselves. She has brought them together for a common purpose. And doing this festival is something that will certainly be so important for many communities, and uniting them and reminding them that we are stronger and we can learn so much from each other if we unite, and that reminding us that that it's important to rejoice and to celebrate each other's culture, because we all benefit.
And I will just add, thank you, Doris and Chris, that, you know, basically because of this, because of what Doris started really with me and what Chris has done, I actually think what we did, and this touches on what Doris was saying earlier, like, we cannot have people looked at as foreigners. We are one family. And because of this coalition that we created through bKind, Be One, we have successfully now turned this into, and I forget which one of you said that it shouldn't be a day, it should be all year round. We've turned this into just one day, right? You know, or the month, actually. So ours was one day, but AAPI Heritage Month is now this, as Doris was saying, this really 4-month festival. We're doing a lot in May, but then we're carrying it out, as Doris said, the whole entire summer outside of Christina Lee's apartment, where, okay, I won't talk about that, but so it's a 4-month festival celebrating and uniting all of these communities and celebrating AAPI culture. And it's just, I think, I am optimistic that we can change this. We can actually create this change in New York City to start, but then it could serve as a template and it can be carried over. So what we've done is incredible, and I'm so happy to keep it going and to keep it growing. And I will say also, like, Doris actually arranged for a lot of these safety alarms, and Chris has been, we provide these protect yourself classes, and we have had exponentially more people where Doris and Chris come in. We're going to start doing it every week. And a lot of people have just been assaulted, and people come and they share their stories, they connect, and it's every ethnicity, and it's such a diverse group. And it's really transformed what we're seeing in our immediate community. And now with this 4 months of it, if we can change that much, if we can impact people in just a couple months that we've been doing these programs, imagine what we can do in 4 months. And then we'll keep it going, and then we'll grow to other cities, and just, I think we can make it happen.
This is the start of something beautiful. And, you know, it's one of those things where people need a safe space. And within that safe space, they can have the conversations, they can ask the questions, they can get, informed, they can get empowered in terms of the options that they have in front of them. Too many times people are like, well, you can't do that. You can't do that. That's impossible. I'm sorry. I mean, are they reading books that just say no, 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 no? Because it doesn't make any sense. You know, with the right people, good things happen. I had to share this one slide from the Ethical Protector program, and it's basically respecting people as human beings, even if you don't respect their behavior, is the key to de-escalating conflict. Conflict is at the root of a lot of the issues that are going on, right? So you treat others as you'd like to be treated, and if you don't agree with their stance or what they're doing, that's fine. You still have to value their humanity, their life, right? So it's not like, oh, these people need to be put away. It's sort of like, this person needs help too. How can we do that? The beautiful thing I like about Ethical Protector is that it teaches de-escalation strategies and concepts to both law enforcement as well as social workers. Seems like a simple concept, but if you look at it a little bit deeper, it's that much more meaningful, because social workers can't engage community members in need unless it's safe. So they can actually reach everybody they'd like to help. So if they work side by side with officers, the officers can provide at least more safety within that environment so that they can safely engage. And should it start going in a direction that's not as beneficial, the officers can help, make it safer as well. if you think about it from the officer's perspective, usually their only options are to arrest a person, let them go, or hospitalize them. That doesn't really give them a lot of room to actually help a community member, right? It's more of like, okay, on to the next one. So if you have teams of social workers with police officers working together, the social worker can engage, give different options, whether it be counseling, whether it be shelter, whether it be food, whether it be detoxification. And then, okay, great, you're amplifying, the service and the abilities of the individual to begin with. And then for law enforcement, well, as opposed to leaving that person that has issues, is troubled, and might be the source of issues down the road, here's a social worker that can give you access to programs. If we can help you, great. If not, we tried. Very, very simple, basic program, doesn't cost much, but all it's doing is amplifying what they already do. Ways to get people involved, but also anytime people wage war against a war against drugs, war against everything, you're wasting resources. Help people out. It costs less, and it actually helps the source of the issues a lot more than just putting a bandage on something. One thing I also want to bring up, if it's okay, one of the groups in New York, it's called They Can't Burn Us All, has an interesting backstory. They created these cards, and they've been passing them out. It's a pledge card. And basically it's like, I pledge to love, to care, to protect, to show up. Seems simple, right? But within the back of it, you have a checklist. During Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, let me see if I can get it on screen, right? I promised to support 2 small businesses that I had never been to, in Chinatown using the Welcome to Chinatown's directory. Attend the Chinatown Block Watch, sort of an escort service of, helping people get to places safely. Deliver meals on Wednesdays to Upper Manhattan with Asian American Alliance. You name it, but this is an invitation for people to basically be informed of events that are going on with the community, and then getting to know other good people and just getting things done. But a lot of people are always wondering or saying, well, what can I do to help? How can I help? And if you have these little checklists or, little pledges to engage, then all of a sudden you've got action, and action's the most important part. Talk without action, or action inconsistent with talk, really doesn't help anyone. It's almost a misrepresentation. That's something that's interesting too. I think our politicians these days are in a very, very difficult situation because, my God, you can't make everyone happy. You can try, but the other thing I want to touch upon is we don't need everybody to participate. The ones that want to should. Because if you make a target and you say that everybody needs to participate, you're already excluding some people. But everyone who wants to come out and wants to participate, wants to help, wants to grow, wants to learn, wants to enjoy themselves, come on out.
Yes, it was like I came in with this many questions, and after listening to I have like these many questions. I have so much to ask and discuss. But what you said, Chris, that right things happen, with right people, good things happen. So this is absolutely correct. And how this pledge card is such a perfect example to convert the theoretical part into the practical part. And so I wanted to, I heard this ethical protector and safety alarms. I wanted to know more about this.
I would be happy to forward to you some articles on ethical protector. Ethical protector was actually first implemented in Camden, New Jersey. So Camden, New Jersey at one point in time was the highest murder rate per capita within the US. And when the police department was trying to figure out how they could change that statistic, they reached out to a friend of mine, as he is a teacher as well. His name is Jack Hoban. And basically, he came in and he realigned, reshaped, the department. Before, there was a lot of friction between the community and the police department. Some elements were probably let go, and then what they ended up doing was realigning the police force so that it would protect the community. Once the community understood and saw by their actions, not just their words, that was true, it built up trust again. And that's the direction where things should go, to be more ideal. A great story was during the pandemic when there were a lot of protests and rallies, after George Floyd died, was killed. The rally, there was a protest that happened in one of the South Jersey towns, and the police force in Camden basically said to themselves, okay, well, we have two options here, right? We have to go to the rally, we have to make sure that everything's safe and doesn't get out of control. But he did a second step, which was interesting. He went with pickets so that if everything went smooth and well, they would march with the protesters. And that's what ended up happening. And, come on, throughout the pandemic, how many times did we turn on the news and see all these horrible, violent, looting, stories that just sort of like triggered and made people more and more afraid? And you didn't hear stories like this one where basically everything went okay. And you know what? People are working together so that we don't have to go through all that other stuff. But the more people see it, the more that example is set, the more they can realize, one, it's possible, two, it's accessible, and three, it's already happening.
If you're interested in that sort of concept, we have not mentioned that all three of us have had worked with Council for Unity, which is actually in the school system in New York City and in Long Island. And the idea is to cultivate kids in very young ages and to instill in them this concept of really what we are trying to teach adults, which is to be kind, be one. So it's the idea of unifying folks and teaching people really how to interact with one another in a sensitive and a kind way. And the idea of Council for Unity is to unify communities. And we work with, I'm on the board. Both Chris and Lisa have met the founder. And I don't know if they've had a chance to go to any of the schools yet, but we are in a number of schools. We have a number of chapters, and the kids are very diverse. And I know that this program works because I did a program for the court system about hate is a virus very early on in the pandemic. And one of the kids actually recounted that she had interjected in a potential event that, another Asian American girl was about to be targeted outside the school. And this young woman who was not Asian basically had heard about it, and she felt that this was wrong, and she interjected by warning the young woman so that the young woman could escape to safety. And so the idea is we create leaders, people who believe in the concept of really being kind and being one, and they will take action. And they are often the leaders of the school in promoting that, and also become leaders in the community. But they're in the public schools now. They're looking to expand, and it looks like that will be happening under this new mayor.
And also, I want to speak to what Doris said. Council for Unity is amazing. And it almost, Council for Unity is basically taking the concept, like Doris said earlier, which I love, that no group is foreign or other, like the issue that we're having in the Asian American community. And so Council for Unity takes that, and I love it because it's very effective, because kids are impressionable. And it sort of transforms these schools where you would normally have rivals, like the Black community against the Puerto Ricans, and even then against the Dominicans and the Asians. And so it unites these kids. And at a young age, one of the issues, I think, which we as a society are facing, is also being faced in the kids in the schools, that they don't know enough about each other's cultures. And when you learn about other cultures, you celebrate it and you understand it. And I think, Doris, correct me if I'm wrong, that's what that's one of the
yes,
that's one of the components. And then the other thing that I love, which is it's the greatest, that an attack on one of us is an attack on all of us. So I think that's beautiful. That comes from Council for Unity.
The one thing that's also very impressive about Council for Unity, it was also started in the 70s. So basically, you're creating a team within the students, because the students can take an accredited class for a grade where they're basically learning about each other's cultures, getting along and supporting each other, but they're also allying themselves with an instructor that's teaching that class, which basically also means that the school supports that class and that culture. Also, since you have different schools that are doing that in the area, then you also have allies within other schools. So basically you end up having a allyship or a network of resources of people that you can tap for assistance, for help, for guidance, whatever it might be. Another unique aspect of Council for Unity is it's also been implemented in law enforcement, in police departments, as well as in corrections. So it's actually sort of reshaped a good number of gangsters, for better lack of, basically gangsters will get a network where they can actually talk through some of their issues, and sort of get the support that maybe they never had before. Bob DeSena, the founder, when he walked into a prison and he said, well, this is a program and it can help, in his mind, he's just like, well, these people, they're not going to listen to him. They know that he doesn't get it. He doesn't understand it. So Bob, strategically and very, very smartly said, you don't have to listen to me. Watch this video. And that video would basically be interviews with gangsters that had gone through the program. And they would say, we never had this before. We never had an opportunity to share about our situations, have people that we could talk to and work through the issues that were going on. So, these are fundamental shifts in terms of making meaningful programs available to people who need it, and basically giving people a voice or an avenue to grow, to learn. A lot of these people, they don't get that opportunity.
Yes,
and
true.
It just needs to be provided.
So they work with, if I could just interject, they work with at-risk kids and inmates in prison. And even though we say, oh, this is, what do they have in common? I think for a lot of people, they have issues that they have to work through. So the program is about defeating your dragons. So everybody has a dragon that takes over their mental being and makes them do things that perhaps they know that they shouldn't be doing. And so until you work out your issues, you can never really achieve the sort of goals that you want for yourself. So for somebody who in school, they can't be an academic success if there are these basically demons they're dealing with. And so what's great about this program is it helps kids deal with those dragons, so to speak. And we have almost 100% graduation rate. That is remarkable in New York City school system on any level, but particularly for kids who are considered at risk, kids who might have ended up in prison or some other road that is not productive for them. And in the prison system, we have about a 2% recidivism rate, which means that 98% of the inmates who leave prison do not go back to prison. And that's actually a remarkable rate. So, this goes into the whole concept of, be kind, be one, that we have to be kind to other people, but also be kind to ourselves, and to basically reclaim ourselves for our true purpose. And being one is uniting and understanding that the person may look different than us, may act a little different than us, but ultimately we are part of the same human race, and that we need to respect each other and treat each other kindly.
So it's interesting, we're blessed because we're in New York, right? There's just so much activity, there's so many people, and there's so many programs. Each and every one of the organizations, each and every one of the programs has leaders behind them, that are passionate about what they do and want to see and make a difference. We're blessed because, you can find so many good people, but then it's also how to figure out the right alignment. What Goodera is doing is great too, because it's sort of tapping, connecting, and then communicating like we're doing right now. And then from there, let's see what we can do to help each other, because there's so many different ways that we can. I recently heard a talk by David Gergen, who was the advisor to 4 different presidents in the US, journalist, and he came out with a book. It's Hearts Touched with Fire. I'll sort of share this one because I thought it was really, really meaningful. It was a talk about Oliver Wendell Holmes and how he was inspired after being injured during the Civil War. He received grievous wounds, getting shot in the chest and another time in the neck, each time almost not making it. Neither of that diminished his life. He basically said, as life is action and passion, it is required that one should share the passion and action of one's time, at peril of being judged not to have lived. Through our great good fortune in our youth, our hearts were touched with fire. It was given to us to learn at the outset that life is a profound and passionate thing. In our youth, our hearts were touched with fire. So, you can tell when someone's got that fire. You can tell when someone's got that spark, right? Nurture it, run with it, because that's where I think all the good stuff comes from. And you know what? It's not going to be easy. There are going to be challenges, but it makes us stronger as well. But our ability to be able to adapt and get through those challenges makes it that much more meaningful too. And it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to require tons of money. It just needs to, it just requires a proper connection.
Whenever I'm listening, I'm just mesmerized, and it's so amazing to listen to all of these stories, all the work that people have been putting in.
Out of curiosity, it's our first time interacting and everything. How are you guys going to take in all the data, and then how is that going to be shared, and to who will it be going to, etc.?
Yeah, so we will be making videos. We'll be making short videos and then longer videos. So short videos are for all the social media websites, and the longer videos are for our websites and for YouTube. So these are a couple of videos that we'll make, and then we write content as well. So we write articles. So each and every NPO that we interview, we write articles about it. That's again posted on our LinkedIn. It's posted on our website, and then few clips from those articles are also showed on our social media website. So we have videos. So we have different types of videos. So some are very short, some are medium length, some are like this whole interview will go on YouTube on our channel.
Wonderful. Now, I will share, some images as well as links to you through. Is the best email through the same one that came with the Zoom?
Yes. So the thing that you said, so I'd like to add a point on the thing where you said that whatever happens in the community can also be reflected in schools. Since schools are a place where the future of a community or a country is built, and over there it's most important that students over there understand the importance of cultural diversity and the sensitivity that comes with it. So when I was in school, we had a program called cultural exchange program where students were explained about the program, and it was volunteer. So if I want to be a part of this program, I can go and register myself. So what happened was, all the people who registered for it, they were made groups. Like I would be paired with another friend of mine, and if I want multiple pairings, I can also opt for that, and I'll go and I'll live with that friend of mine for a day at their place, eating their food, seeing how they live. So this is something that I feel can be incorporated in more schools. So even though we are so it's not, we do have diversity over here, but it's not very different. So what happens at my place will also happen at her or his place. So but then where you have such a diverse group with, you know, who are poles apart, this can really help bring at least students together, so that the future of our communities and our countries are safe. So I wanted to know, despite of all these news that are going around, and all these work as well that's been done to uplift communities and make people understand the importance of it, how far have we come? Like, I'm sure it must have been worse earlier, and I am very positive that this is the rate that we are following right now. But then I just want to understand, how far have we come?
That's all relative according to one situation, isn't it? So I think all we can do is keep aspiring towards better things and just make things better for each individual. That's my 2 cents.
If you look at the long view, the arc of justice is always going up. There may be setbacks. I think right now for our country, particularly women feel that there is a major setback in terms of being able to control their bodies and choice. But ultimately, the arc of justice, I'm very optimistic, does go up. The setbacks make people stronger and perhaps willing to fight more, and recognizing what they have and what might be lost. So the engagement of people may be more heightened because of a setback. And I think that if we look at globally, I think that ultimately, we have more education, we have more food safety generally, although it's not perfect. We have more, I think, cultural engagement. I think we have more of very positive things. We are also in the midst of a war, in terms of Ukraine and Russia. But it also has brought out so much good in many of us in terms of caring, in terms of giving. So yes, there are setbacks, and hopefully the world and individuals become better and more caring because of it.
I'll also like to add that
Doris,
we're sort of blessed too, because you've got pioneers of people before that paved the way in so many different ways. I mean, Doris, is a retired judge in New York. So, the amount of time, effort, and energy that was put into obtaining that position and doing work like she has, that's huge. I mean, she was instrumental in, helping to make Lunar New Year a holiday here within New York. She worked with Senator John Liu in that. I mean, come on, that's pretty special. I mean, kids like all over be like, oh, well, this is a major family holiday, but let's go to school and then we'll come back and celebrate it. But you think about the battles and the energy that had to be expended to just sort of like make certain things happen against the tide that may have been on them. So without the work put in, without the political capital expended like that, we wouldn't be where we're at. But that being said, it's always going to be a forward movement. Just keep going, right?
What other choice do we have? right?
Exactly right. We could complain, who would listen?
That's right.
Add to what Chris said, and Doris will correct me if I'm saying this inaccurately. Doris also, like way ahead of the time when gay marriage was legal, she married. I don't know how to explain it right, Doris, so you can do a better job. But the other point I wanted to make first, to speak to what Doris said, in these times of tragedy, I believe it is always going upward, because when things happen, it unifies us sometimes. And I believe that will happen. And even with COVID, I think in many ways it brought out kindness, but it also brought out, like, there is a global unification that we are all just human beings. And every human being, I believe, it's your God-given or your birthright, however you want to put it, to be treated with dignity and with justice and equality. So that was just regarding what Doris said previously, but Doris can explain better her just amazingly way ahead of her time changes that she made and the impact she had on the justice system when it comes to LGBTQ plus rights.
I was the one who issued the decision saying that same-sex couples have a constitutional right to marry in New York State. I was the third judge in the country.
A long time ago.
A long time ago. 10 years before the Supreme Court, actually. Long time ago. So
this seems pertinent, and just to say in advance, I don't work with David Gergen, but I like what he has to say. It's like hearts touched with fire, how great leaders are made. So basically, it's sort of like he ends up formulating his own opinions and thoughts in terms of like what made very successful leaders who they are and how were they received. I only just got this week, but I'm looking forward to getting through it because the things that he shared already were pretty insightful in terms of different dynamics with different politicians and why they were or maybe weren't so successful, but applicable to the times.
All this has left me completely speechless, and I'd go straight to my another question, and probably that would be the last one. If there's one message that you can give out to our viewers, I'd really like to listen to it. And I want one message from each one of us, Lisa, Doris, and Chris.
I always go back to this bKind, Be One coalition concept, and Doris, we put the verbiage, we created it together. However, Doris, the way she wrote it is just incredible. But if I have to say it in a sentence, let me see if I can do it justice. bKind, Be One is a coalition of leaders. And we believe that through uniting, we can make it so that no group is considered foreign or other, and that we are all collectively as humans, we can create a collective difference as humans and unify together all cultures, all identities, and all groups as one. Doris does it better.
No, you did great. You did it great. So my message, in addition to Lisa's, of being kind and being one and recognizing that we are all human beings, and we need to treat each other as if we are family, is also that anybody can be the leader, that it does not take special qualities. You just have to be willing to do something. And it's so easy to be negative. There are so many people who are negative. Oh, you can't fight City Hall. You can't do this. You can't. And I wish I had a penny for every time I heard that in my life. That is, you can't do this. You can't become a judge. You can't become the first Asian American judge out of Chinatown. You can't do this. You can't do that. And you can't fight City Hall. And you can. It will take some leadership, it'll take organizing, it'll take some hard work. But my experience is that you can do that, but every person has to step up. And every person is capable of stepping up. And if you're upset about something, you need to take action. It could be writing a letter. It could be contacting an elected official. It could be talking to a neighbor and deciding on a strategy. But every person has that capability. And don't diminish yourself. You have the power.
I have to add, Doris is awesome, absolutely awesome at doing petitions. So if everyone needs petition and get signatures, she's the one to ask. I hope that's okay for me to say.
Yeah. But it's not just the petitions, it's also the engagement. You have to engage with elected officials, and use your petition effectively.
It's also inspiring girls and women. Doris has instilled that and empowering girls and women and many others who might have said, I don't think I can do that, because I'm from this background or whatever, and it's changed lives.
Oh, thank you. You're both very kind.
It's true. I try to keep things as simple as possible for myself, the KISS principle. So make a difference and smile. If you're not smiling, you're not doing it right, and because it didn't feel right.
That's true.
Oh my God, that's the reason I love my job. I get to hear so many amazing people, so many amazing stories. That's so inspiring, and that tells me that, like Lisa mentioned, with adversities, we have a positive part that brings people together just to fight them. So I'm very thankful for all the work that you've been doing, and thank you from our side as well.